Hi, Pontoon.
Hi.
Hi.
Good morning.
Hi, Cal.
Morning. Super early morning.
So, Taboo Tuesday. What's our topic for today, Sam?
Co-sleeping.
Co-sleeping.
Or bed sharing. I was kind of looking, and I guess they're defined a little differently, and I didn't know that.
Yeah. Co-sleeping is just like sharing a room with your baby, like the umbrella term, essentially.
Okay.
And then bed sharing is sleeping with your baby in the bed.
Co-sleeping is, right now.
Yeah. So I'm definitely a bed sharer. I don't have my own space.
No, you're a bed sharers as well.
Yeah.
I'm a part-time bed sharer.
Yeah. It's nice when you can have those moments when you want to cuddle for a nap, but then also be like, go to your room so I can watch TV at night or spend time with my husband or whatever.
He goes down in his own bed every night, and then lately he's been waking up at 5 a.m. and then we bed share from like 5 to 7-ish, and then naps on the weekend.
That's sweet.
That is so sweet.
That's sweet because you guys both get a little bit of extra.
It is, but I also would just like for him to just sleep in till 7.
Yeah.
So,
my 10-year-old still doesn't sleep until 7, so there's that.
Don't say that.
I mean, he'll be a teenager at some point, so I figure,
Yeah.
And he'll sleep till 12.
That's true.
Right, and it'll just jump from 7 to noon.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm curious because I don't do long, like overnight bed sharing, so I am curious what y'all's setup is. Like, where does the baby sleep in regard to you and your husband? And then how do you have like bedding set up, pillows, stuff like that? Do you have like railings? I don't know what that looks like.
So for us, it looked like, so we have a queen bed. So it would go, and this is not what's recommended, but it would go Rod, me, Rod, Aggie, the dog, Cash, me. And then when they're really little, you do like a C shape around them.
Okay.
So that your knees and your head like creates this little hole for them where no one, like if the husband or the partner does roll, they're supposed to hit your knees first.
Okay.
And then minimal blankets. So I always slept in like a long sleeve shirt and I had the blanket up to my hip. And then minimal pillows. But there are not supposed to be animals in the bed. Okay. That is the one thing that we do that is not recommended by bed sharers.
Yeah.
And no railing on ours, but when like if Rod goes out of town, we do the whole night in Cash's bed because I get nervous of him rolling off.
Okay.
That's really smart.
Yeah.
That's really smart, especially now that they're so mobile. Like there have been times at night where like Lachlan has woken up and he's sat up and I haven't felt him move. And so that like, oh, you're really close. You could be really close to the edge and I might not know is definitely a concern.
The beds, like for all of us, you put them in one position and you wake up and they're like, they've done a 360. And you're like, how did you get all the way over there with your feet on top of your head?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're set up similarly to you. We have a California king, and so Chell, Lachlan, me, minimal pillows, minimal blankets, but I use a blanket and Chell uses a blanket, so we have 2 separate blankets because he likes to do the cocoon and pull the covers up to his chin. But we definitely do the same thing, and I still form a C around him just because I feel like I have more awareness of him at that point.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We do pretty much the same. And we did the same with Brantley too. I mean, Brantley in the past 2 years kind of went into his own room. And so whenever I was pregnant with Callahan, I was like, this kid is sleeping in his own bed. Like, I'm not doing that again for another 4 years. And
here we go, nevering.
That worked out.
And so, I mean, the first week and a half, like whenever he was in his Billy Rubin blanket, I think we had this conversation. He slept in his bassinet, no problem. Like naps all through the night, like no problems. But the second we took that blanket off, like he was not having it. So just sleeping with
Same.
us. I just have like a separate spot. And sometimes whenever I'm nursing, I'll like flip him over on the other side and then I'll just flip him back into the middle once we're done. But yeah, he sleeps in the middle between us I have my pillow and Adam has his pillow, and they're not king size pillows. They're just standard size pillows so that it doesn't cover the whole bed.
About those of you who like put your babies right in the cribs, what was that transition from like bassinet to crib? Like what made you decide bed sharing, co-sleeping, not for us? Like, let's talk about that.
Well, I think ours happened around, I wanted to stick it out to 6 months because I heard, that's what was recommended. And then there was, I think it was 4, almost 5 months. We had a night where like nothing was working and he was just up and mad and he wouldn't do anything. I was like, let me just try his crib. And I put him in his crib and he was like, oh, I'm going to go to sleep now. And I was like, okay, we're in the crib now. And that was it. It was literally a moment of desperation. I just tried something new and then he stayed in his crib and we were done with the bassinet.
I'm
not jealous at all.
With my first. With my first, she's now almost 3, and I was going to do something similar where we had her in our room for the first so many months, whatever was recommended. And it just got to the point where she was so loud. I wasn't getting sleep. She wasn't getting sleep. My husband wasn't getting sleep. So we just moved her into the crib, and she slept wonderful. She slept through the night. So we never bed shared, co-slept, or anything like that with her. And since it works so well with her, we just did that with our second as well.
That makes sense. So when did he move over, Julie? Was it like almost immediately since you already had that in mind?
So our second moved a lot sooner than what we moved our first. So I'm going to say he moved maybe a month old.
Yeah.
He was in a bassinet when he started giving me longer stretches at night is when we moved him, because I was like, all right, I'm only getting up once now, so I can walk down the hallway to go get him.
That's true.
I think with her, it was probably closer to like 3 months. I think I made it 3 months, maybe 2.5, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't, babies are loud.
Yeah, and
So
newborns, like the gremlin like growling all night.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Or
the don't prepare you for how loud the babies are.
Mm-hmm.
So true. Or how much they move. Like talking about how much they move in a crib. Like you put them in one spot and they end up in another. It happens bed sharing too. Only I feel like for me, he wakes himself up more because he's bumping into me and he's waking up because he smells me or whatever reason. Like there's just so much more stimulus there versus in a crib with nothing else.
I wanted to bed share. I had talked to Sarah and I think I talked to Sam about it too, but we wanted to bed share because Benton's literally been the worst sleeper for the past year. She's a horrid sleeper, but the moment to our room, it was like she knew it was party time. She was like, I get to play. She would stand on my head. She would stand on Jacob's head, and then she would like bang her hands against the headboard. Like it was a rave. It was from like, I'm ready to nap to like, oh no, it's awake time. Even though I was because I'm breastfeeding and we can nurse and I can just sleep while I nurse you. But she was like, no, this is not what's gonna happen. So we stuck with the crib, that's why. But she went to the crib at like 4 months when she started to roll in her pack and play. It was an impromptu decision. We were like, nope, I am not. Postpartum anxiety, you are not sleeping in this crib that I cannot be sure that you can breathe.
Yeah.
So she went there, but we did all the research on it, but she's got her own mind, as we all know.
That's Allie. It's kind of similar because when we bed share, we can't do it. Both me and Andrew can't be in the bed because then he just like thinks that we're all up and we're like having family time. Like it has to be just one of us. So we have to like trade off naps or we trade off in the morning.
Alyssa,
Aw.
how it is with you guys? You guys nap time share too.
We do. So I always knew that like I wasn't gonna bed share because I had just heard from like, especially my parents that they were intent on not bed sharing, and then they let me in a few times, and then I slept with them until I was like probably until I started like really liking boys.
Same.
So my bedroom has always kind of been like my sanctuary. I've always had a TV in my bedroom. It's where I go to unwind. And so something I really struggled with postpartum was that having him in our room took away from the only thing that was mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so we felt very like strongly that we would go as long as we could with him in the room until that we felt comfortable. The 4-month regression lasted for so long with us. It was, I remember through it and being like, why did I start it before you? And why am I still going when all of these other babies?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of when we were like, you know what, we need to sleep train. We need to just do rip the Band-Aid off and just have like one really shitty week adjusted to no swaddle and the crib and sleep training kind of all at once. And that worked for us. He wasn't taking naps, still taking really short unless we held him. And so that's when we kind of were like, you know what if we just like put him in the bed next to him? And we napped. And so it was like 6 months. We didn't feel anxious about his sleep and like safety. He was rolling, he was all over the place. So we didn't feel the need to kind of like put all of the pillows away in a hyper anxious way or move the blankets. Like, and that way on the weekends, everyone got a nap. So like it's on Saturdays and Sundays, like it's Harry, Scott, me, and the dog all napping.
I love that.
I know.
And so like I think that we all kind of get a time to decompress. Like we're still being present for Harry in a way that we don't get to be during the week. But it's like a calm, like the whole house just kind of settles together.
Yeah.
How peaceful. That's peaceful.
It is very nice. And he naps much longer in our bed. Scott has figured out how to get him to nap without the sound machine and with a movie on in the gap. He won't do
There you
that.
go. Go Scott.
Yeah, he won't do that for me. But I think that's something that's been like a happy medium for us, that we kind of feel like we're getting the like closeness that you get with co-sleeping without having to commit and sacrifice our nighttime sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say, Alyssa, you were kind of like the inspiration for me to start doing that. I saw all the like big bed naps and I was like, let me try this with Eli. And then it worked. He would sleep for over an hour, which he was never doing for a nap. And he'll let me like watch a movie too. So it is nice to just, sometimes I'm like, oh, he needs a nap. So I can't do anything. Sorry. I have to go watch Harry Potter and take a nap with him.
Yeah, it forces
See,
you.
Chell is a napper.
Yeah.
Chell is a napper. I'm not a napper. So like that to me sounds like misery, because I am a busy person by nature. And so for me to have to lay down for 2 hours and not be able to get up and do what I want to do sounds like torture. But for Chell, he's very much a napper. So he's like, I'll just go sleep with him in our bed. It's fine. So yeah.
So does Locke, does he nap on the weekends just like in bed with someone?
He naps with Chell on the weekends. During the week, I have worked really, really hard to set up his napping, and he is finally giving me, I'm knocking on wood because I really don't want to jinx this. He's finally giving me like 1.5 hour naps twice a day, which from the 30-minute contact napper to an 1.5 hour of no touching is really great, but he will not do that on the weekends for Chell. And Chell has tried duplicating everything. So he naps out here in the living room. Like we set up a safe spot on the nugget, and I get him down, and Friends is on low in the background, and there's just some busy noise, and I'm doing what I need to do. Chell has tried that. He's even put friends on, sets it at the same volume I do, like does the same routine, and this kid's up in 30 minutes with Chell every single time.
He's like, no, it's the weekend.
I'm like, you just don't have the mama time. Yep. So he naps with Chell on the weekends, but during the week he does his own thing.
I think Cal has like learned that like with me, he can get away with a lot more too. Because I mean, we have a nanny a sitter who comes to our house, and so it's the same setup, it's the same everything, and she will just lay him down in his pack and play in our room, close the blinds.
He's like, yeah, mom.
And she leaves, and he'll nap.
He's like, she buys it every time.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But then with me, I mean, I just put him down for a nap, and I was like, got him in the pack and play, like he's asleep. He slept for like 25, 30 minutes. Yeah. And now he's up ready to go. So I think he can definitely knows when to play me. There's been a few nights that I've been able to like get him to sleep in the pack and play, and he's like slept from 10 to 2, which has been amazing. But then it's like straight back in the bed with us. So
yeah.
That's how I feel like at daycare. They say he naps from 9 to 10:30 and then like 1 to 2:30 every single day in a crib. Like, and he has never ever done that for me.
Right. Right. These babies.
I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't know what they're doing at daycare, but
they're magicians at daycare for sure. Because Brantley was the same. I mean, we co-slept with Brantley too. And naps were contact naps always with Brantley. And at daycare, I remember the first time I like looked through the window, he grabs his blanket, walks over to his little cot and lays down, like nobody's touching him, nothing. And I'm looking through the window like, that's not my kid. Like, what are y'all doing to him?
They know that mom will rescue them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
We started doing with Benton walking now. I walk to her nursery bedroom. Is it a nursery anymore? I don't know. I walk to her bedroom, and then she'll like follow me in there, and she goes and reaches through the slats of her cribs and like her crib and grabs her sleep sack. So I feel like I asked daycare what she did, and our daycare lady was like, yeah, that's what I do. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to try that because apparently it works great for you.
I actually wanted to ask like what brought everyone to either co-sleep or not co-sleep, because we all obviously went through the same thing with the babies waking up over and over throughout the night. So like for me personally, the solution to that was the only way I'm going to get sleep is if I figure out how to have Cash sleep in bed with us. But I'm curious what everyone else is. Like mine was out of desperation to get more sleep.
I had like felt based on my experience with me and then kind of reading the safety stuff, and like I was never judgmental about co-sleeping. I just knew that it would have added another layer of anxiety, like one more thing that I would have to worry about.
I totally get that.
My mom kept reinforcing like, this is a period of your life. Like this is a short piece of your life. Not that he likes sleeping. He just struggles sometimes.
Mine started from anxiety. Like I started co-sleeping because of the anxiety kind of surrounding Ronan's rough start into things. He was on me when he had his medical issue happen. And so hearing from the doctors that like, had he not been on me and had I not been aware, that we would have missed it and we probably wouldn't have him, that like fed into my anxiety of like, I need to have him with me. Mm-hmm. I need to know that my hand is on him and his chest is moving, and that if there's something wrong, I'm going to be here and I can do something about it. And then I think having Lachlan, even though it's 9 years later, I think having him just kind of rewoke that, or awakened, I guess, rather, better word there, that same kind of anxiety, especially when he ended up getting on the Billy blanket and having like all of those, just that upset at the very beginning. It was just a lot. And so for me, it was a comfort having him there and knowing that I could intervene if I needed to.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I never knew that with Ronan.
Yeah, I didn't know that he was on your chest.
Yeah.
I mean, I had too much anxiety to do it early on, like with a newborn. I didn't feel like I knew enough about it. I didn't feel confident enough in myself that I would be aware enough throughout the night. And he was so tiny. So we didn't start doing it until he was probably 8 months old. And then I felt a little more secure because he was rolling, he could move, he moved a little too much. Y'all know my incidents. He ended up off the bed a couple of times, but that for me, it was kind of like, I think I saw Alyssa was having success with naps, especially because Eli never would give me longer than a 30-minute nap ever. So I was like, well, let me try it for naps. And then it worked for naps. And then it was like, okay, well, if it's working for naps, maybe I can get a few more hours in the morning too when he's getting up, at 5 a.m. And so yeah, I guess it's probably part desperation as well. And then also like more confidence in him being older, is because it didn't start until he was probably 7 or 8 months.
Yeah, at that age, they're even able to like recognize that they can move things off of their face and things like that. Where a newborn, they obviously can't recognize that.
Yeah.
Experience was like, I mean, obviously not as scary as Amelia's, but I mean, in the hospital, I was holding Brantley, and I remember the nurse walking in, and she was like, "What's wrong with him?" And I'm sitting there not knowing, just holding my sleeping baby, and she's like, "He's purple." And the way I was sitting, I couldn't tell that he was purple because I was sitting in front of the window. And so she grabs him from me, and they immediately just start working on him. And so I think for me, like just even Brantley now, like in his own room, I still wake up throughout the night, like, and check I bought him a baby monitor, and he's 5, and I'm checking him. And so I think for me too, is I'll tell myself like, okay, I'm going to move, Callahan into the room with Brantley. And I just am so anxious about just not being able to hear if something goes wrong or, anything. And so I think for me, just having them close, even if it was for 4 years with Brantley, hopefully not that long with Callahan. I'm hoping soon we can try to, move him. But for me, that was just an anxiety thing. I was just always afraid that if I was not there, that I would miss something.
Oh, interesting.
I feel that. What about you, Mara? We haven't heard from you yet. So let's talk about your
not a bed
sleeping
share.
experiences.
Late, and I have a work meeting in a little bit, but I wanted to hop on for a bit because I know my perspective's a little bit different. But it's so interesting. I mean, we've had this conversation so many times, but it still surprises me how much everyone's motivations are usually something to do with anxiety, but it goes in completely different directions. So mine is
absolutely.
I very rarely co-sleep with Riley. And when I do, I have to have her on me versus like in the center of the bed because I'm so worried about like, I'm pretty comfortable with me, but I don't really trust my husband with like rolling over. And it's just too stressful. And if she's on me, I won't completely fall asleep, and I'll kind of I'll be aware if she moves. And so for me, I like need to have her on me if she's sleeping on me. But I can count on one hand the number of times that she has slept on me for bedtime sleep. We've done contact naps quite a bit on and off, but for actual bedtime sleep, we do everything that we can to get her into the crib and only have her sleep on us if it's been hours and she's clearly struggling. And usually it's a digestion thing because she likes sleeping on her stomach, and she can only get comfortable sleeping on her stomach if she's going through digestion stuff, if she's on us as well. So for me, it was anxiety. I was too worried about her like rolling off the bed or something else for us to co-sleep. But we did have her sleep in the same room with us for, I think, about 10 months, partially because I was also worried about not being able to hear her. And, yes, you have a baby monitor, but what happens? But we actually all slept much better once we had her start sleeping in her own room, which was kind of surprising to me. But the fact, like, my husband and I come to bed at different times. So she was kind of waking up and tossing and turning and going back to sleep each time each of us came to bed. But then we were tossing and turning waking up when she would kind of move around because she likes changing positions. And so it was hard to make that transition, but we are all sleeping so much better. And it's so nice to have my room back to myself.
Is that something that you ever wish that you could like get past the anxiety to allow yourself to do like a daytime nap, or is it like?
It's interesting. I've thought about it a little bit, and obviously like we have our Snapchat where we share like what's going on in the day to day, and one of the things that I love is seeing people do their like cozy bedtime sleep, and it's something that I definitely want to do at some point, but I'm not really in a rush to do. Like I love the idea of having a cozy nap, like a family nap, but I don't feel like I really wish that it could happen sooner. I'm pretty content with waiting until we feel kind of ready to do it. And I think it's around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
Definitely.
I don't
Alyssa's
know.
bed. Alyssa has like the most cozy looking bed.
Seriously, it's like
Like
such goals.
she makes me want to go there and nap.
I know, and especially
Yeah,
she's
I
got Harry
actually would
Potter on
rather
all the
take a
time.
nap with Alyssa than with my daughter. It sounds much cozier.
Yes. Alyssa won't like it though.
No, Alyssa would hate
No.
that.
You would that even crosses the center line. He doesn't even he crosses the center line. It's like alarms start going off in my head and I'm like, get the fuck away from me. And that's a pre-baby thing. Like that is not like I'm touched out thing. That's how I feel. My bed is my sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
And I love to cuddle with the dog, and we sleep with us all night, but we've even started kicking him out. And so now the guest bed is his nighttime bed. We let him cuddle before bed. And then right before we fall asleep, we escort him into the guest bedroom and we tuck him in. And so everyone has we have plenty of cuddle time, but everyone do spread out for nighttime sleep. And
I feel like co-sleeping with the dogs and the husbands is like a whole other conversation.
Yeah. But now, Alyssa, I think we need like a reel of Bolt's bedtime routine.
Oh yeah.
Bolt's bedtime routine, gets in bed with us, and then he gets under covers with his butt by the pillow and his body on top of my left side on my leg. And then he lays there for about 2 episodes of 30 Rock. And then he gets out and he gets on top of the covers. And then depending on how long it is till we feel like we're going to fall asleep, Scott will escort him down the stairs to that bedroom, which is next to Harry's room. And we will open up the blanket and let him crawl. Yes.
And he gets tucked in a bedtime story and a forehead kiss.
A kiss, and we say, "You're the best boy." And he's our child. Like there's literally no difference between.
Oh my gosh.
I feel that.
I feel like all of our experiences too just like explain that there's no one way you have to do it. Like you can co-sleep and you can sleep in a crib. You can co-sleep for, the second half. You can put in a bassinet for the whole time. You can put them in their own room right when you get home. It's every single kid, even in this group, is so different. And even over the past year, they all have changed time and time again too.
And
It's so true.
You all feel like, I mean, anecdotally, as somebody observing, I do feel like there is a divide. Like those that aren't don't tend to complain about being touched out as those, and then those that are not, and then there's like those of us that aren't co-sleeping. I never felt the touch out quite as much once we got past like every 2 hours. It definitely I think that you all that are like co-sleeping definitely feel it more.
I think ours is more of the constant needing to be on the boob.
Do you feel like that's related? I think that it's always been such easy access that they don't.
I don't know if that's co-sleeping related or if that's just the fact that like that's my solution to everything is to give them the boob.
It was mine for forever.
That's what I did with Ronan, Sarah. I did the same thing with Ronan, and he was a boob kid. So it was really easy for him. Every time I offered it, he wanted it.
Yes.
Lachlan is not that way. Unless he's hungry, he does not want it. So for him, it's not a comfort thing, but I still am touched out because he comes to me for comfort, just not from the boob. Like he will choose me over dad every single time. Like right now, I'm just being touched all the time.
I really wonder if co-sleeping is why I'm having such a hard time weaning at all. It's hard to tell because I had 2 kids, but with Brantley, I didn't breastfeed at all. And so I don't really have anything to compare that to, but it's just so easy access for Callahan, and it's easy for me. I mean, at night, he doesn't even really cry. He just kind of like fusses a little, and I just like hand it over, and we just go back to sleep. And so I think now that I'm like trying to like pat his back and give him a pacifier and trying other soothing techniques throughout the night, he's like, no, like this is not what we've been doing. I know it's right there. You can't hide it from me.
Also co-sleeps and has been in the same boat. She sounds like she was able to wean a lot of her nighttime feeds through other soothing methods, but it took like a solid week for her to get to that point.
I don't have the patience.
That's where I am, is like, okay, I'm like, okay, on the weekend when I can do nothing all day, I'll just do it that night. But then nighttime comes and I'm like, I'm exhausted. This is so much easier.
Yeah.
When Izzy mentioned cutting out that nighttime feed and just soothing, giving other ways of soothing, that's when I like started myself deciding, okay, you know what, this 2:00 in the morning feed, I know he doesn't need it. So I'm going to try this. And literally the first night I didn't show him the boob. I just covered him back up and patted his butt, and he was back out again. And it's been working. We're on, I think, like day 6 now of it. And it's been consistent. Like he now doesn't wake up at 2:00 in the morning and I don't have to soothe him, and he's waking up at 6, which is really nice.
Well, when we are all weaned and not co-sleeping, we'll have to give an update on how we did it.
Right. And what it feels like for our bodies to be
off at college, but we will see.
I don't know, maybe since they're all boys, it'll be different. It sounds like since Alyssa and Bailey were girls, they wanted to sleep with their parents for longer.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Like,
but then we have Brantley and Ronan in the mix, who were like, we're gonna stay here until we start kindergarten. It's fine.
Yeah.
but